let's go to our win-loss record of the Allvin trades. Who came up with this idea? Was it Grady? Grady, did you come up with this idea?
C. Yes, it was me.
It's a fantastic idea. And Harmon and I were talking before, later in the year, maybe the summer, we can do the same with the Benning regime, right? We can do their free agent signings, both regimes free agent signings, and compare the win-loss record.
Lots of L's there.
Yeah. But anyways, let's get to it. Let's get to each trade that the Vancouver Canucks have made under Jim Rutherford and Patrik Allvin and see where we line up in terms of a win-loss tie, toss-up record. Okay, let's go. We're going to start with the first trade they ever made. Travis Hamonic to the Ottawa Senators for a 3rd-round pick. W's all around?
Yeah.
Don't need to discuss it?
Easy.
Okay, next one. Tyler Mott for a 4th. I have this as a W.
Just a toss-up. 4th was
Toss-up?
I mean, it's fine. You trade a pending UFA for a draft pick, but I don't think a 4th-round pick for Mott was anything crazy.
But it was the most they could get.
Sure, but anybody could make that trade. You or I could make that.
Sorry,
that trade.
we went through 8 years of Jim Benning. Are you not at least entertaining the idea? Are you not at least entertaining the idea that Jim Benning sees that and says, "Well, we don't want to trade him for a 4th. We might try to re-sign this guy at the 11th hour and keep him."
But okay, you're comparing like the lowest possible bar.
The one in the city.
Everything you can't
grade it on the Benning curve. Is what you're saying?
Come on,
sure. The Benning curve. I like
there
that.
was talk that they were going to re-sign him to like, a
Right
way too high AAV. Yep. So I'm giving them a win there.
Yeah, I'm going with the W for having the
they could have just kept him and he would have walked for nothing, right?
Well, I should also say
they could have re-signed him.
Yeah.
For me,
and he struggled to sign the next few years, right? Like, he thought he was going to get more than he would. And I know the flat cap played a role in that, but you don't want to be overpaying for guys like Tyler Mott.
Yeah.
And I think, flashing back, I think at the time, he was playing really good hockey before he eventually was traded. And I think a lot of people got wrapped up in what he did in the bubble, which was great. But you got to remember what he was in that point, and that was a 4th liner.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a W if it was a 3rd. And for me, I should also sort of clarify when we're saying like a tie or toss up, if something's a slight win, I'm not going to just give the dub.
What? You just said it's a win.
But okay, when that trade happened, how many people were saying, "Oh, that's a great win for the Canucks"? It was like, okay, I'm glad they at least traded the player for what they could get.
Yeah.
But a 4th-round pick at the time was fine. It wasn't, mind blowing.
Okay, we can't spend too much time on Mott for a 4th.
Lowercase W win.
Sure, fine, still a
fine.
W.
Yeah.
All right. Dickinson and a 2nd.
Whoa.
What?
Travis Dermott trade.
Oh, what?
Oh yeah, the 3rd for
Dermott.
Dermott.
Did I miss that? Yes, 3rd for Dermott. I put it as a toss-up.
Me too.
I had it as a toss-up as well.
I think it was a fine trade at the time. You're taking a chance on a guy you think can play in the top 4. Obviously, Travis Dermott has had a lot of
and underlying metrics too. Like he profiled really well in Toronto. I remember defensive first guy that could play both sides. So it just didn't work out, and concussions and all that happened as well. So.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I missed that one. Anyways, Dickinson and a 2nd-round pick for Riley Stillman. I put this as a toss-up.
L.
I went back and forth on this because they were cleaning up the previous regime's mess at this point, and that Dickinson contract was pretty tough to move. Now, the fact that they had to add a 2nd for it, and Riley Stillman
coming back,
and he didn't turn out to be anything. So I have it in the L column, but I can be persuaded probably to.
Well, part of it is also Dickinson was reportedly playing through an injury in that year in his first season as a Canuck. I would have preferred that they just sort of wait it out and give him a shot.
Sure.
And I just don't think the team is good enough to justify giving up a 2nd for 2.65.
Yep.
Of cap relief, and Dickinson has since bounced back and
absolutely
been the player
and
that
you
they
wonder
him
what he would look like playing under Rick Tocchet too.
Yeah, and so it's not like I'm not saying it's a huge loss or any means, but like it's.
I think it's somewhere in the middle of toss up and L, and I think you lean more toward L, even though I have it as a toss up. Okay, my first L here: DiPietro and Myrenberg for Jack Studnicka. I put this as an L.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm an L too.
Okay. And my reasoning for it was that when the trade was made, the justification was, well, Myrenberg's at least 5 years away. And then I'm like, okay, well, Boston's at the top of the standing, so why are they making that trade then? And it's because good teams, as I think the Canucks have learned, good teams continue to replenish their prospect cupboards. And I wonder if the regime itself regrets that based on what we've seen them do since. Because I think that's someone you'd like to have in your organization, Jonathan Myrenberg, because he's, he's a B, C level prospect, but there's legitimate signs, or there were at the time, that maybe you could develop this guy into something and he could be a late round pick for you that hits.
Yeah, I looked it up. He's playing in the SHL as a full-time player, 7 points in 22 games, averaging 17 minutes a night. It's not easy at 20 years old, earning the trust to be a full-time SHL defenseman, 6'2" right shot defenseman. Again, he's a BC prospect. It's nothing that you're worried about, but another right shot defense prospect.
Yeah,
probably rather have that than Stanika right
and
now.
This isn't revisionist history or anything. Like, he won't say it now, but Chris criticized the team at the time when they made that trade, because he liked Myrenberg as a prospect, and he said there's no reason to take this bullet out of the chamber down the road. Ethan Bear and Lane Peterson for a 2023 fifth rounder. W's all around.
Yep.
Okay.
Big dub.
The Horvat
not
trade.
Big dub, but it was a win.
Our first one here. The Horvat trade. The Bo Horvat. I wonder where we all. I have it as a W.
I have it as a W.
W.
Okay. I thought there would be more drama with that. Okay. Do you want to talk about that one at all? Like, we all agree it's a W.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought you get essentially that pick ended up being 17th, and obviously subsequent Hronek trade, it's gone, but 17th overall pick in a stacked draft class, plus Ratu, who's, I think he's, last I checked, 13 points in 15 games.
Starting to play in the
center.
top 6 for Abbotsford.
Yeah, and he's a center prospect. That's, even though you had to take Beauvillier's contract back, I think that's a pretty decent haul for a rental, even though after the fact, obviously, Isles extended Bo.
Will Lockwood and a 7th round pick for Vitaly Kravtsov. I have it as a W given the context of everything that happened before that, when it was rumored that New York was looking for a 3rd round pick.
Come on,
they waited it out.
It's a toss-up.
Toss-up.
Fine.
Okay, where's Krasov right now?
Sure.
He's not with the team.
Sure, I
You
thought it was a
can't
fine
give-
bet.
Sure,
It's a toss-up. It's a toss-up.
but you can't give them a win for.
They have his
No.
rights still, and Lockwood, he wasn't fitting here, but he showed some bottom 6 snarl.
Sure.
I'm just not sure if it was ever going to.
I will agree with you guys, but I'm not changing mine. I'm keeping it for the sake of the exercise. I'm keeping it as a W in my final record.
I would want you as my teacher. What the hell? I could get an A for anything.
Well, you guys are probably right. It's closer to being a toss-up than a W. But anyways, I'm not changing. I'm staying with. Well, I gotta keep it for the exercise. We're not changing. You can't change, because then we're all gonna end up with the same thing. Anyways. Riley Stillman for Josh Bloom. W's all around. I think everybody was shocked when that trade was made.
Yeah.
Okay. Luke Shen for a 3rd. Also a W.
Yep.
1st and a 2nd for Philip Hronek. A W.
Because this is going to be my hot take.
Yeah, here we go.
This is going to be, and I don't expect most people to be in my camp. I'm going to say that it's trending towards a win, but to me, it's a little bit too early to definitively declare it a W. And the reason is because I'm a little bit worried about Hronek's next contract. If he ends up at this pace and ends up, let's say, earning a $7.5 to $8 million cap hit on his next contract, because he's at a point where third in the league in points and all the huge minutes he's logging. The concern I have is in Vancouver, we've only ever seen him next to Quinn Hughes, who isn't just the best defenseman in the league right now. He's the best player, period, in the NHL. And so, man, that type of contract would be a little bit worrying for me. Look, at this point, we know Hronek's a good player, but if he's, let's say, hypothetically a true talent, let's say $6 million defenseman, but you're paying him a premium for that, then, I mean, we'll see. The point I'm trying to make is it's trending towards a win, but I think time still needs to play out, and seeing his next contract and seeing if he can drive his own pair. That's my thought process.
I think it's a win, because similar to what you said about how you need to see what he looks like away from Quinn Hughes, and that's the question we get in almost every anyone else segment, is how do you quantify what Philip Hronek's doing, but he's playing with Quinn Hughes? Like, how do you quantify that? And I think the simple answer is you really can't until Ethan Bear or whoever else comes, that those two are split up. It's really hard to quantify what Philip Hronek looks like by himself. He looks fine as a power play 2 quarterback, right? Like, he looks fine doing that, but do you want to pay a power play 2 quarterback $8.5 million? No, you want to pay a guy who is successfully driving a top 4 pairing, that kind of money, and he's also going to be capable to step into the role that Quinn Hughes steps out of if he goes down with an injury. Like, that's who you want to pay. You want to pay your stars, as Corey Anderson said in the chat.
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Harm, but the fact that they now have to pay him a premium is a good thing because it showed he's actually performing exceeding expectations. I totally agree about Hughes potentially carrying him, but let's not forget adding right shot, two-way defenseman is probably the hardest premium to find in the league.
Yep.
At the time, sure, it was a hefty price, but you can't argue with the performance this year. He's, done, I think, better than pretty much anyone's expected. And the fact that you have to pay him at some point, that to me tells me, okay, well, the trade was actually good here. And you want to be able to pay your stars when they deliver. But I do hear you. I think in an ideal world down the line, you would have Hronek anchoring his own pair at some point and the option to load up Hughes and Hronek depending on the game situation. Because that way you have basically Hughes or Hronek coming over the boards almost every other shift, right? So it's a win.
Virtual Reality Channel, further to Grady's point, if you absolutely have to overpay on right-handed defensemen.
Fine, that's fine. But when most of your other players are also making, market value, when you look at Pettersson and a lot of the other contracts on the books, it shortens your window for actually contending for a cup because it's impossible to win a Stanley Cup if most of your core players are paid market value. Look at how much harder it is for Colorado to flesh out the depth of their roster.
Yeah.
Now that Nathan McKinnon makes 12 point whatever it is, rather than 6.3 in the cup winning year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
that's a great point.
That's fair. But the counter to that is, well, the cap is going up here, but that is going to raise everyone's salary, right? So
yeah, you also have the OEL buyout, dead cap hit kicking in. So,
and to Harmon's point, Hronek and Elias Pettersson's contracts are both going to be signed with the cap having already gone up, so they're going to get full value. It's not one of these situations where you're signing and then the cap goes up, and maybe down the road. But Harmon has a very, very valid point when it comes to that. Okay, let's move on here. Lazar for a 4th. W.
Yeah.
Okay. Pearson and a 3rd for Casey DeSmith.
Well, you skipped over Wyatt Kalynuk for future considerations.
To the Rangers, yeah, man.
Come on, how do you not remember?
Sorry, guy. I knew that trade happened. Do you guys want to talk about that?
No, it's a wash.
Okay, great. Yeah, I didn't even include it in my overall record. Okay, Pearson and a 3rd for Casey DeSmith. Harmon, you start.
It's a win.
Yeah, it's a win.
Yeah, it's a win.
Okay, thought that'd be more fun. 5th for Sam Lafferty. W.
Easy.
W. Jack Rathbone, Carol Plastic for Mark Friedman and Ty Glover. W.
Dub.
And finally, Anthony Beauvillier for a 5th round pick. A W.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my overall record. Do you guys have yours tallied up?
I
tallied up.
Didn't.
I do, but I think I screwed the math up.
Go tally it up. Both of you tally it up. I'll kill us some time. Okay. My overall record is 13-1-1.
Yeah, you also gave them credit.
Yep. maybe it should be 13-1-2. They have had 1 L, and the 1 L that they had that we all agreed on, I would just like to point out, was pretty insignificant. It was Mike DiPietro and Jonathan Myrenberg for Jack Studnicka. That's the only L we all agreed on. The only one.
Yeah, but Grady and I agreed on the Dickinson one being an L too.
Sure. Also a rather insignificant trade.
I have 11, 2, and 5 for myself, but I'm not sure. Once Quad said his record there, and then I remembered that he was forgetting trades. I'm just thrown for a loop right here. Someone's gonna have to go back and fact check for me.
There's no way you had 5 toss-ups. You didn't. I know that for sure. Your record is much closer to mine, Grady.
I have 2 L's, so we can work backwards.
Yeah, you had the Dickinson as an L and DiPietro. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I don't know if I did the math right on this, but I believe
Come on, math guy.
First time he's ever said that.
10 wins, 2 losses, and 5 toss-ups.
5 toss? What are your toss-ups? Go through. Tell me your toss-ups.
Kalynuk for future consideration.
You toss-up.
Are you going to give them a win for that?
No, you don't have to give. We didn't even count it. Take it off. It doesn't count.
Okay, fine. But it's a trade. You said every trade.
Okay, fine. You're a toss-up?
What do you want me to give them?
I guess
W
it's a
for that?
toss-up. Sure, I guess it's a
Oh
toss-up.
wow, future considerations, man.
So
That's a
insignificant.
huge win. But you said every trade.
Okay, fine.
You were the one yesterday that said
You're
every
right.
trade.
You're right.
So I had that as a toss-up. I had the third for Dermott as a toss-up. I had Mott for the fourth.
Oh yeah, I guess my record would be 13-1-2 because I also had Dermott as a toss-up. I just forgot to write it down.
I had Lockwood and a seventh for Kravtsov.
I had that as a W.
Exactly. Like, how is that a W?
It was at the time when the trade was made. Like,
Yeah,
that was
process-wise, I
universally
liked it.
praised.
But you can't. Yeah. But you can't give them a W.
And
People
for the
are
result.
let's be clear here. There is some trades here that like the story is still
Sure.
being written.
And then the Hronek one, it's trending towards a W, but for me, just to see how the contract plays out,
Oh god. Okay.
it's
You're right. Yeah, you had your reasons. I won't disparage you too
you have
much.
to look beyond this season. That's my only point. And again, I know it's a hot take. I don't expect most people to agree with me, but
Mhm.
in as much as I hate to talk about contracts and cap and fitting everything under so that you're actually a contender, like
Mhm.
those things
They matter. They do matter. You're right. Cody Severson in the chat calling Stillman for Bloom an L. How is that an L, Cody? That's a W.
Just trolling.
We all had that.
You
as a
moved
W.
off what 1.5 million in cap.
Yeah,
That's a win alone.
Yeah, the fact they didn't have to give anything up to get rid of Riley Stillman.
Good point though by Cody in the Hamonic trade. The third they got back was to draft DP Elias Pettersson.
Yep, exactly. Okay, I think we're all good here. I think we figured it out. Great job, boys. That segment was great. We're gonna do it again with the Benning regime at some point. We'll do it some point, maybe the bye week that the Canucks have. I think January they have their bye week, so not that far away. We'll do the Benning regime. Save your records, boys. Remember to save them. We'll compare them with the Benning regime, and then we'll do free agent signings somewhere down the line.